Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use. Tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, everybody, this is a little bit older of an article, but I just want to bring up some factual information here. Cult faces new claims of child sex abuse and neglect by Greg Ansley. This is in Australia. And we know that it's rampant out there. One of several Scientology buildings in Los Angeles. Canberra. Further allegations against the cult of Scientology, including claims of child sex abuse and neglect, have renewed calls for an inquiry into the organization and its operations in Australia. The allegations accusing the cult of cover-ups and the mistreatment of children in a toxic environment follow earlier alarming investigations and a failed bid for a Senate probe. Mind you guys, it was failed. We all know who's in charge. I mean, a lot of us know really what's going on at the top. Sick. Among those making the new allegations is the daughter of the president of the cult in Australia. Wow. And police are investigating a claim a senior official interfered with an investigation into the reported sexual abuse of an 11-year-old girl. I'm sure Rinder didn't know any fucking thing about that either, did he? The claims have been denied by the cult, of course they have, which supported its rebuttal with statements by members who were raised as children of the elite. Who were raised as children of the elite, praising their upbringing. The allegations aired on ABC Radio's investigative Late Line program add to previous reports used to strengthen political efforts to force an official inquiry into the activities of the cult in Australia. In March, leading anti-science... Why do they label people? I'm not even reading that. In March, child advocate campaigner Senator Nick Xenophon tried to convince the Senate to open an inquiry into the church's tax-free status. Backed by an ABC Four Corners report, the complaints of former members and hundreds of letters raising new allegations. You would think that'd be enough, right? Four Corners reported claims of forced abortions, imprisonment in boot camps, and families split apart. Also imprisonment of children, let's not forget. All of which were denied by the cult. But both Labor and Coalition voted against a Senate inquiry. Listen to that. I think Australia's set up similar to the UK in their government. You know, just like we are, I think we're a two-party system here in America. But both Labor and the Coalition voted against a Senate inquiry, noting the existence of other tax inquiries and the danger of the upper house becoming a de facto criminal investigations bureau for the disaffected. I don't even know what that means. That just sounds like some gaslighting, because that's their job, to investigate. You know, Xenophon's a real man. Yesterday, Xenophon said the latest allegations could not be ignored. The best way of dealing with them ultimately is to have a judicial inquiry to get to the truth of what's occurred and to make recommendations so that this sort of thing doesn't happen again. I wonder how many children since that day have been essayed and sexually abused. I mean, we already know that the other abuse goes on. We know there's neglect. We know there's rampant physical abuse, child labor, child trafficking, denying them the right to go to school. I mean, Lateline interviewed Scarlett Hannah, the daughter of Australian Scientology president Vicky Dunstan, and former public affairs director Mark Hanna, supported by Sheila Huber, a former executive establishment officer in Los Angeles. Sheila Huber, anyone? Sheila Huber. Scarlett Hannah's parents are members of the elite circle known as Sea Org. I don't know what's so elite about them, except for the delusional. She grew up in a now disbanded group called Cadet Org. I think that's probably because there were too many complaints. Just a guess. Who she said were separated from their parents. And the parents need to take responsibility too. I'm done. And lived in overcrowded conditions without adequate food or medical care. Just to name a little bit. Just the tip of the iceberg there. The best way I can describe the treatment of children is as cattle. Yep, Scarlett Hannah said. We were property of the organization, and although they would like to say that we weren't, we were. Absolutely they are. It was an incredibly lonely childhood. It's just so tragic. At 13, Scarlett Hannah was sent to live with adult members of Sea Org in inner Sydney. That's mistake number one. I mean, there's so many mistakes done here. That's a huge one right there. Living a largely unsupervised life. That's another mistake. Open for predators. From 9 a.m. to midnight, and dodging classes at what she described as one of the city's roughest schools. So she must have been in public. I was being bullied and bashed, and so I just stopped attending school, she said. I started hanging out in parks because I was so socially isolated, and this led me to being AR'd by a convicted murderer and running away. Wow. Huber told Lateline that she had worked for Sea Org as a nanny for Cadet Org children. She had no training and had sole care of 30 children, under 3 packed into a 1-bedroom apartment. You guys, you know there's got to be more dead infants. You know that. There has to be. And I'll bet you those babies were just buried like randomly somewhere. I couldn't believe it, she said. It was wall-to-wall cribs. So, like, when you're listening to all these executives babble on with their dumb bullshit, remember that. In further allegations, Carmen Rayner, the daughter of a Scientologist, said she had been abused by her stepfather. And then another one. But had been told by a senior officer. Oh, if you guys didn't hear that, had been told by a senior officer. Jan Eastgate. The abuse was her fault. Of course it was. And had been coached to lie to the police. Eastgate was at the time head of the cult's Anti-Psychiatry Citizens Commission on Human Rights. She now is the head of the commission's international head based in Los Angeles. I think she's been arrested now. I need to go back and look into it. They told me it was my fault because I'd been bad in a past life, Rayner said. Isn't that a great excuse for R-ing babies and children? She said she had been told that if she did not lie to police, she would be taken from her parents. Well, that's actually kind of a good idea, isn't it? And never see them again. The cult has denied the claims. Of course they did. They always do. Deny, attack, victim, reverse, offender. Not only did cult staff help facilitate Carmen and her mother to report the matter to the proper authorities at the time it happened, her mother's to blame as well. In 1985, it was only through the intervention of the cult that the man responsible ultimately turned himself into the police and was prosecuted, the cult said. Well, geez, maybe the police finally did do something right. One can hope. It declined direct comment on the Hannah allegations because they were a private family matter between Scarlett and her parents. Of course they did. But it said her remarks were not in accordance with the experiences of others, lies, who had grown up as Cadet Org children, lies, who said they had lived rich and fulfilling lives, lies. The statement, including 6 supporting statements, including one from 22-year-old Bindi Bennett, a second-generation Scientologist, who said she had lived with Hannah in the Cadet Org for 4 years. Scarlett was very close to her mom, and I observed that she would spend a lot of time with her at the cult and stay with her after school most days. Bennett's statement said she was also close to her dad. I'm sorry, you guys, I don't want to be mean, but come on now. I'm not saying that the parents don't care at all, but let's just keep it real. Okay, you guys, I will put a link in the description box. Have a nice night or a nice day wherever you are. Peace.